Welcome to Pioneer Headlines. I'm Bryce Hartwich.
And I'm Nathan Grisham with Madison on Sports. An anonymous city employee survey shows that most of Gallatin's fire department does not believe the city offers competitive wages. A salary market study shows the city's minimum annual salary for a firefighter 2 position was 7% below the market average. The mayor says she plans to push for a new pay study over the next year that will include all city departments. The pandemic had an impact on salary consideration last year.
Middle Tennessee is still recovering from the COVID quarantine. Mason McCarty looks at the big picture.
According to the Washington Post, 10.1 million people are currently unemployed. The labor force goes on to state that 1 in 4 Americans will be working remotely from home in 2021. Diving deeper into that statistic brings about some very interesting and dynamic questions. With all this free time that office workers and businessmen are finding on their hands, what good use are they putting it to? And what new challenges have they come face to face with? Today I stopped by Northfield Church in Hendersonville, Tennessee, where I had the pleasure of speaking with Josh Wooten, the head youth ministry leader, and got to hear all about his work adjustments with the virus.
You know, one of the hardest challenges we had in reaching students and connecting was we were all in the digital space, and you know, although we were separated in the whole alone together thing, people really were having Zoom burnout by the time they'd been in class on Zoom for 8 hours a day. So we were trying to create Zoom hangouts and realized pretty quickly that kids weren't ready to hang out on Zoom, but we switched our model to more of a SNL, Jimmy Fallon type of YouTube show that we were doing on Wednesday nights using YouTube Live. But that's one of the ways that we connected, just trying to create different content that they were already consuming, but trying to put our focus and make it look like us.
Not only is the church finding new hobbies and facing unique challenges, so is Rob Hull, a Nashvilleian cinematographer and producer. Thanks to the pandemic and quarantine, when Rob is not editing footage or directing a social distance production, Rob has turned himself into a self-taught mechanic.
I've had a chance to pick up some hobbies, and I've always kind of enjoyed working on engines and cars. Over the last 5 years or so, have really started doing that more and more, and then just in the last 6 months, really picked up a lot more with this Corvette here. Yeah, having a good hobby during quarantine, during COVID, is essential, I think. At least it has been for me. I think the biggest thing I've learned is to just try. Just try new things. If I don't know how to do it, to figure out where I can learn how to do it. YouTube has so many great videos, they'll just run you through just about anything, and then you just have to put your knowledge to work and get out and try stuff. So it's been great.
If these productive and optimistic individuals don't inspire you, I don't know what will. I'm Mason McCarty.
Population growth in Tennessee is having an impact on Middle Tennessee. Charlie McCauley says that putting pressure on residents in the state's capital.
I had the chance to discuss these issues with some Nashville residents.
The worst part about living in Nashville right now would be how busy the interstate is on 65. There's always a wreck, and I can never get to my destination on time.
At times traffic gets pretty congested. Even during COVID, the traffic will get really bad, even during rush hours.
It is definitely too crowded for the size of the city because it's making parking $20 an hour, and there's nowhere to really drive because everybody's always walking, or there's bachelorette parties everywhere.
Do you think the city anticipated this rapid growth?
I think they anticipated it because they wanted to make profit from it, but they didn't actually realize what it would do to the community of people who live here in Nashville.
One of the most expensive things in Nashville is most definitely the rent. The rent to live in Nashville is very expensive in comparison to other cities. The wages out in Nashville aren't as high as other cities, so the rent isn't really justified. One of the hardest things about living in Nashville currently is the expense from food and groceries. Stores like Whole Foods, Publix, Trader Joe's are often quite expensive, even something like milk. But restaurants are typically high priced compared to other cities.
While the pandemic hit pause on many Vol State programs, Mike Sadler tells us there's one program that started new growth.
Volunteer State Community College is known for many things, but what you may not know is Volunteer State's radio program, WVCP. Today, we take a look at what it's all about. We spoke with different people in the program and got their thoughts.
You know, I've been here for about 6 months now, and I really enjoy being here. I enjoy seeing what the students are doing, because I was once in their shoes, and I'm learning still, just like they are, just like they're learning. And it's fun to learn all aspects of radio, and you know, I look forward to continue to contribute and give back to the radio station that I got my start at.
We found out about the jobs that are handled within this station.
My name is Jessica Meyer, and I'm a student here at Ball State Community College, and I'm taking the radio productions class here at the radio station. I'm also a volunteer, and I do voice tracking for the radio station, which is pre-recorded segments for a radio show that will air later on.
And finally, we wanted to figure out what they wanted to gain from this program.
I've learned how to set up audio podcasts, and I've learned how to create commercials and mingle with sound effects, and how to just get information across on a radio station.
We then had a small conversation with the one behind it all.
My biggest objective with this program is to make sure my students get jobs when they leave. I want them to be professionals. I want them to have the joy of the industry. I want them to understand how the industry works. And the best way to do that is being a volunteer at WVCP.
But just how do you make that happen?
On our back wall, our hot board is always loaded with jobs for students, so that if they, want to hone their skills, they know what skills they're looking for in the industry, and they can start to work on those particular skills so that they're hireable by the time they graduate. Is hireable a word?
Before we left, they had a message to give.
I would recommend a volunteer position with WVCP to anybody. It's fun, it's very low stress, and we will make sure that you really know what you're doing by the time you hit the air.
This has been Mike Sadler.
The Preds have been taking a much-needed break this week. Madison tells us what's on tap this weekend in sports.
The Preds are hosting the Dallas Stars this weekend after taking a 7-4 loss from the Panthers. The Preds have a slim hold on the 4th place and the final playoff spot in the Central Division. But the Stars may have something to say about that Saturday at Bridgestone. Right wing Victor Arvidsson was hurt in Tuesday's loss and is listed day-to-day for this weekend.
Not great news when you're clinging to a playoff berth. Thanks, Madison. That wraps up this edition of Pioneer Headlines. I'm Bryce Hartwich.
And I'm Nathan Grisham. Thanks for watching.